Marcel van der Walt is from Unisa's Department of Police Practice. He joins us now to discuss this further. Good evening, Marcel. Thank you very much for your time. Now, the people you brought together to lead the discussions today have so many years of experience in researching this subject. What is their research telling us?
Hi, good evening, Vuyo, and good evening to the viewers. Really not just researchers, but practitioners. So we had a prosecutor from a legal perspective, a survivor of human trafficking. I contributed as an ex-member of the Hawks who investigated these crimes and really has been exposed to it for the last 16 years. We also had a speaker from the US Embassy giving some reflections on the annual US State Department TIP report on which South Africa is ranked every year. But just to respond to your question, really that human trafficking is an absolute reality in the country, and we really aim to bring some balance to this discussion, which has really been quite contorted over the last 15 years. Really, there's an ideological minefield, and the definition has not been accurately used, and often we truncate the definition, we almost use it in a piecemeal fashion, which really then results in us undercounting the scope, the nature and extent of the problem in our country.
Well, when you say, expand on that, on the truncated definitions and the problems you are saying they bring, not only to the debate, but to our fight in trying to deal with this scourge.
Yeah, absolutely. So Vuyo, the definition is comprehensive, It's a long definition, and I think there's certain sections. So I'm going to use one example in the chapter 1 of the definition, which deconstructs some terms. There's one term, the abuse of a position of vulnerability, which basically deconstructs that a person, when a person, because of either being a child, being illegal in the country or a migrant, because of social circumstance, economic circumstances, or being addicted to drugs, when a person, because of those predisposing factors, submits to exploitation because they really believe that there's no reasonable alternative to submit, then basically the definition tells us that that could actually be a case of human trafficking. So when you consider that, Vuyo, and when you consider South Africa's structural inequalities, then you begin to realize how many people could actually find themselves in a position where they are exploited and really fulfills the definition of human trafficking. And often we find this problematic discourses around issues of quote-unquote sex work, prostitution, the legalization debate in South Africa, and those are typically the things that we discuss today. We looked into qualitative narrative storytelling, and then basically realizing that this problem is systemic in the country, and it's probably far greater than guesstimated at present.
And while we're busy bickering over definitions and the likes, many unemployed people are being exploited by perpetrators of this crime who have become more daring and more ruthless.
Absolutely, Vuyo, and we need to understand that human trafficking is a high-income, a low-risk crime. It works on the economic principles of supply and demand, and once you understand the complex landscape within South Africa, and we're talking about everything, we're talking about the triple challenge, we know unemployment, lack of education, poverty, but also child-headed households, we also brought in the issue of abortions in the country, believe it or not, the issue of racism, cultural practices which are becoming distorted, where people are exploited. So if you throw all of that in a pot, Vuyo, it's not just human trafficking that is an issue. Then we start to realize why we do have issues such as significant and escalated levels of gender-based violence, child abuse, rape. And then you also understand why these things are not reported. A crime like human trafficking does not lend itself to be counted and quantified. And therefore we have a significant problem with a lack of statistics. And I think today what we try to do is to give that triangulated perspective and kind of also shed light in terms of why we are short on statistics.
Marcel, thank you very much for your time. Marcel van der Walt is, of course, from the Unisa's Department of Police Practice. They had a seminar today to talk about the problem of human trafficking.